Have you ever been hurt by someone and still chose not to strike back? Have you held back tears during a verbal attack just to keep your composure? Maybe you're right now trying to understand why certain people you loved, helped, or respected repaid you with coldness, disdain, or harsh words. And deep down, all you wanted was an explanation. A way to respond that wouldn't break you inside or turn you into what wounded you. But what if true power isn't found in retaliation, but in staying calm? What if dignity is the secret language of those who understand that emotional wounds aren't healed by more wounds, but by wisdom? Stoicism teaches that no one can hurt you more than you allow yourself to be hurt. Every pain is an invitation to clarity, and every provocation is a test of inner strength. What you do with the pain reveals more about you than about who caused it. If this topic resonates with you, it's because something inside is ready to be freed. Something stronger than anger, nobler than pride. And if you've made it this far, it's because you're ready to learn how to face those who hurt you without losing your essence. So subscribe to the channel right now, because here you'll find not just explanations, but practical tools, emotional clarity, and a philosophy that transforms pain into maturity. Now take a deep breath and come with me. When someone attacks you, your body reacts before your mind thinks. Your heart races, your face burns, and your inner voice screams, "Say something, strike back, don't let it slide." But in that very first second, when everything trembles inside, the Stoic breathes, because he knows that first impulses are rarely wise and often emotional traps. And if you can learn to master that first spark, everything changes. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." That's not poetry, it's a practice. When you react automatically, you give away your power. But when you pause, breathe, and choose your response consciously, you not only avoid unnecessary conflict, you strengthen your soul. Dignity isn't cowardly silence. It's the strength to refuse to stoop to the level of the aggressor. Imagine a storm. The wind howls, the branches snap, everything shakes. But the deep roots don't react to chaos, they dig deeper. When you choose not to respond with yelling, sarcasm, or aggression, you're anchoring yourself. You're saying, with your actions, that no one else will dictate how you feel or behave. And that is more powerful than any spoken reply. Stoicism teaches that true control lies in not being dragged by the external. Someone's provocation only affects you if you grant it permission. That's why the first reaction is a portal. Either you step into a cycle of pain, or you break it with presence. It's not about swallowing everything. It's about not letting someone else's rage become your emotional fuel. Maybe you grew up hearing, "Not reacting means weakness." But not reacting may be the strongest act you've ever practiced, because it's easier to explode than to contain, easier to shout than to stay calm. But transformation lives in difficulty. In difficulty, a new you is born. One who doesn't bend to impulse but responds with awareness, like a true warrior of peace. Now tell me in the comments, have you ever overcome a moment where your first reaction could have ruined everything? Write below. I choose to respond with wisdom. And stay with me, because now that you understand the value of presence, we'll explore what really weakens those who try to hurt you. When someone attacks with anger or contempt, our first instinct is to feel threatened. But what if I told you that, most of the time, that anger isn't about you, it's a confession of the one who feels it? Seneca said, "No one is more miserable than the one who lives in anger." The aggressor isn't in control, they're imploding inside, and you just happen to be the visible target of invisible chaos. External anger is a reflection of unresolved internal pain. People who constantly hurt others are usually running from their own wounds. When you see this, you no longer view the other as an enemy, but as someone overtaken by their own shadows. And then, something shifts. You stop taking things personally. You start to see that the real problem is far beyond your presence in the scene. That doesn't mean you have to tolerate abuse or keep ties with those who only harm. It means you don't need to carry the poison they throw. It means you can observe, walk away, and still remain uncontaminated. Someone's rage toward you might say more about what they can't heal in themselves than anything about who you are. Stoicism frees us from the illusion that we must fix others. The only mind you can control is your own. And when someone attacks, they're revealing more about their internal reality than they are trying to teach you about yourself. The wise observe and interpret. The immature react and absorb. That difference changes everything in how you handle conflict. Often you'll notice that those who hurt you can't stand your peace, your steadiness, your light. Because the calm of one person disturbs the noise inside someone who lives in war. At that point, you must decide. Will you step onto the battlefield of emotional chaos, or remain the presence that disarms it with silence and composure? Comment below. Their anger doesn't define me. Let that phrase be your shield next time someone tries to hurt you. Now that you know their pain is not your burden, I'll show you how to set boundaries without losing serenity. Saying no with serenity is one of the most powerful forms of emotional self-defense. But for many, setting boundaries still feels like rejection, conflict, or guilt. The truth is, setting boundaries isn't about pushing others away. It's about protecting what you're building inside. As Epictetus said, remember, you are an actor in a play. Your role is to play your part well, not someone else's. That includes knowing where your space ends and where someone else's begins. When you face someone who's hurt you, your instinct may push you to extremes, either explode or suppress, but there's a middle way, and it's the wisest one. It's the path of calm firmness. You look them in the eye, say what needs to be said, without raising your voice or lacing your words with venom. That kind of response disarms even the most aggressive opponent, because what they expected was confrontation, and what they found was clarity. Setting boundaries with calm requires one rare trait: self-knowledge. The more you know yourself, the clearer you are about what you tolerate, what nourishes you, what drains you, and most importantly, who deserves your energy. Stoicism reminds us, don't waste time with pointless arguments, because time is life. And protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's responsibility. Some may say, wow, you've changed, you're so cold now. But it's not coldness, it's maturity. It's realizing your peace is not for sale, that you're done proving yourself to anyone, that those who truly love you will understand your boundaries, and those who are bothered by them were probably benefiting from your lack of them. Finding peace in that truth is liberating. Firmness with respect, distance with grace, detachment with honesty. These are the pillars of healthy boundaries, and if someone can't accept that, it means they were never truly willing to respect you. A well-placed boundary doesn't destroy genuine connections. It reveals which ones were built on fear of your absence. Comment now. My boundary is my peace. Let that be your turning point, the line between repeating old patterns and creating new dynamics. And if you thought this was powerful, wait until you understand what happens when you choose silence over confrontation. I'll now show you why silence can be your greatest weapon. In a noisy world, those who learn to stay quiet hold a rare kind of strength. Silence isn't the absence of a response. It's the most strategic response there is. Seneca reminds us, even silence can be an eloquent answer. When someone attacks expecting a reaction, your silence confuses them. They anticipated war and met maturity. They expected shouting and were met with presence. Silence reveals who's in control and who's lost their direction. Many people see silence as weakness, but the silence of the wise is not passivity, it's containment. It's the awareness that time reveals what words cannot. It's letting others drown in their own noise while you remain whole. When you choose not to respond, you're saying, this doesn't deserve my energy. I have greater things to build than matching petty offenses. Silence is also a mirror. It forces the other person to face their own chaos, insecurity, and excess. And when they don't get a reaction, they're left to confront their own reflection, which often hurts more than anything you could have said. That's why silence, when used intentionally, is a teacher. It instructs without shouting. It corrects without attacking. It preserves your dignity while exposing the other's imbalance. Stoicism honors the power of restraint. And that's not repression, it's redirection. Instead of wasting words trying to convince someone who won't listen, you shift your energy toward building, evolving, strengthening. Because no response said in the heat of emotion builds anything lasting. But silence, that can open doors that noise closes. Of course, there are times when you must speak up, but when the argument is driven by ego or vanity, silence is both shield and sword. It protects you and disarms the other. And the most beautiful part? It creates space for your peace to speak louder than any scream. Comment below, "My silence is a choice, not weakness." Let that be your reminder on days when your soul wants to scream back. Now that you've seen the power of a word left unsaid, let's move to the next lesson. How to transform pain into wisdom, not into revenge. Every time someone hurts you, you stand at an invisible crossroads. One path leads to revenge, the other to wisdom. Revenge is quick, impulsive, even sweet at first, but bitter later. Wisdom is quiet, requires patience and self-awareness, but gives you something no one can take: evolution. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best way to avenge yourself is to not become like those who harmed you." And that is more powerful than any retaliation. When you turn pain into revenge, you're prolonging the cycle of destruction. But when you turn pain into introspection and internal reconstruction, you break that cycle. You stop being a product of the pain and become the architect of a new pattern. It's not about ignoring pain or pretending nothing happened. It's about using it as raw material to become wiser, firmer, more self-aware. Stoic philosophy doesn't deny suffering. It invites you to walk through it with posture and to extract a new perspective. Pain can be a seed, and depending on how you care for it, it will either blossom into wisdom or rot into resentment. The difference is your choice. It's not what they did to you that defines who you become. It's what you choose to do with what they did. How many people do you know who became bitter because they couldn't handle one betrayal? And how many others became light because they channeled their pain into something greater? You can be living proof that even the deepest cuts can turn into bridges to a new level of strength and maturity. And when revenge seems tempting, ask yourself, will this bring me peace or more noise? Because revenge doesn't satisfy, it prolongs. It keeps you tied to the offender, but wisdom sets you free. It repositions you. It connects you with something far greater than ego, your essence. Comment here, "My pain will become wisdom." Let that be your anchor when resentment tries to return. And if this truth resonated with you, stay with me, because next we'll explore something even deeper: perception. Because not every attack is really about you. Have you ever considered that many of the attacks you receive actually have nothing to do with you? That maybe you were just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the other person exploded over something that wasn't even yours. The ego always wants to personalize everything. They attacked me. It was about me. They wanted to belittle me. But the Stoic lens is wider. It invites us to look beyond the surface, beyond our emotional ego. Sometimes someone else's aggression is just a reflection of the inner war they're fighting. Epictetus said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our view of them." That includes criticisms, sarcasm, dirty looks. If you believe everything is about you, you'll live in constant tension. But if you start observing with wisdom and detachment, you'll see most negative behaviors are about them, about their frustrations, their pressures, their emptiness. You were just the nearest outlet where all that overflowed. When you free yourself from the need to take everything personally, you finally rest. You stop trying to put out every fire because you realize not all of them are yours. You stop justifying yourself to people who don't want to understand. You begin to discern with clarity which battles deserve your energy and which ones don't even deserve a second glance. That's how you live lightly, without being naive. It's not about being indifferent, it's about being selective. Because if you absorb everything, you burn out. Stoicism teaches, choose where your mind rests. Choose what deserves a response, what deserves silence, and what deserves distance. And you can only do that once you stop thinking everything revolves around you. That's not humility, it's mental hygiene. Imagine this: someone offends you. Instead of reacting, you ask, is this really about me? Or is it about something this person is going through but can't manage? That kind of question shifts your entire interpretation of the world. And how you interpret shapes how you feel. Emotion is born from perception. Change the lens, change the reaction. Comment below. Not everything is about me. Let this be your mental shield. Now that you've seen the power of this shift, it's time to go even deeper. Let's talk about expectations and how they're often the root of your deepest disappointments. Have you noticed that many of your deepest wounds didn't come from what someone did, but from what you expected them to do? You expected them to value you. You expected gratitude. You expected sensitivity. You expected them to react like you would, but they didn't. And that's where it hurt, not just because of their action, but because of the gap between what you imagined and what actually happened. Expectation is a fantasy. When it collapses, reality hits hard. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your judgment about it." Expectation is a prejudgment. It's you trying to predict and control others' behavior based on your internal world. But people aren't you. They don't feel like you, think like you, or love like you. And when you stop expecting others to mirror you, the disappointments decrease. Expecting less isn't cold, it's freeing. When you release the need for recognition, for reciprocation, for specific responses, you become present. You act because you want to, not to get something in return. You give, but you don't attach. You offer, but you don't lose yourself. And that, through the Stoic lens, is emotional maturity in its highest form. To act from purpose, not from emotional dependence. Expectation ties you to a future that may never arrive. And when it doesn't, you suffer twice, for having imagined it and for having lost it. But the Stoic lives in the now. He gives without expecting, loves without demanding, observes without clinging, because he understands that everything external is unstable, and only what's internal can be cultivated with consistency. Many of the wounds you carry weren't caused by real actions, but by imagined ideas. You weren't just hurt, you were surprised. And surprise only hurts when it comes from illusion. So start freeing yourself from illusion. See people as they are, not as you wish they were. And watch the weight you carry lighten. Comment here, "I release what I expect from others." Let this phrase be your daily reminder. Now that you understand the root of disappointment, let's close this journey with the most powerful lesson of all: how to forgive without losing yourself, and move on with dignity. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood concepts. Many believe that to forgive means saying, "It's okay," accepting the wrongdoing, and pretending nothing happened. But real forgiveness isn't about them, it's about you. Forgiveness is removing the poison from your heart without hugging the snake again. It's stopping the bleeding from a wound the other person doesn't even remember they caused. Epictetus said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And it's true. Holding a grudge traps you in a scene that already passed, but that you relive every day. Forgiving isn't forgetting. It's remembering without pain. It's looking back with maturity and saying, "I didn't deserve that, but I don't deserve to carry it forever either." When you forgive, you're not saying what they did was right. You're saying it no longer has power over your present. Forgiveness is a conscious choice for inner peace, and that requires strength, not weakness. Stoicism teaches that true freedom comes from within. If someone hurt you, but you're still chained to that memory, the injury repeats every day. But when you let go, you're free. Resentment keeps you stuck in the past. Forgiveness brings you back to the present. And it's in the present that healing begins, that rebuilding starts, that your energy flows clean again. You might never receive an apology. Maybe the person who hurt you will never realize the damage they caused, but that doesn't stop you from moving forward. Because forgiveness is not a reaction to their awareness. It's a response to your decision to stop poisoning yourself. It's you saying, "I choose to grow. I choose to breathe freely. I choose to walk in peace." And when forgiveness feels impossible, remember this: holding a grudge is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. You don't forgive because they deserve it. You forgive because you deserve peace. And that kind is the highest form of self-love. Resentment traps you, forgiveness moves you. And only those who move build new paths. Now that you've made it here, take a deep breath and notice what shifted inside you. Maybe it was a new sense of clarity, maybe a quiet relief, or simply the silence of a mind that has begun to understand that dignity isn't about being passive. It's about standing firm with peace. Stoicism doesn't ask you to accept everything. It teaches you discernment, to choose where to place your energy, to respond with wisdom, to transform pain into lucidity. And those who walk with dignity never come out of conflict diminished. The question now is, what will you do with all this? Will you just reflect, or will you apply it? Because knowledge that isn't applied becomes a burden. But when it becomes action, it becomes inner strength. So which of these reflections hit deepest today? Which one do you feel needs to be implemented in your life right now? Type in the comments. I choose dignity. Just so I know you're no longer willing to lower yourself to the level of those who hurt you. You're ready to raise your emotional standards. If this content empowered you, imagine what's coming next. Subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications. Because here you'll learn how to master your mind, strengthen your soul, and build a life rooted in clarity, presence, and practical wisdom. Each video is a new lesson, a new lens, a new step toward who you were born to be. Because in the end, the greatest victory is staying whole in the midst of chaos.